Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about simplifying radicals. So before we even get into that, we need to get a bunch of vocabulary words out. So pull out your note packets or a piece of paper so you can take some notes on all of these vocab words about simplifying radicals. So the first vocab word that we're going to talk about, which you probably already heard of, is the square root. And a square root is just, let me switch to a pen. A square is just this thing right here. It kind of looks like a long division symbol, but it has this little tail right here. Oftentimes we're going to see the square root with a number inside of it, like the square root of 25. What the square root is asking is the square root of 25 is saying, what number do I multiply by itself to get 25? So in this case, we know that 5 times 5 is equal to 25, which is the same thing as saying 5 squared equals 25. So the square root of 25 equals 5. Okay. Another thing we're going to see sometimes, or you actually probably won't really see it, but it is implied, is that there's actually a little teeny tiny 2 that theoretically lives right there on the outside of the square root. We never write it, so whenever you don't see any number written above the radical or above that little square root looking sign, then it means there's a 2 there. And we're going to talk a little bit later about what that 2 is. So the radical sign is just this, just the brackety part of the square root, okay? So oftentimes we're going to talk about things that are inside the radical, so that'd be like this stuff. Or maybe we'll talk about stuff that's outside the radical, so maybe it's over here, and that radical is just that kind of long division looking symbol. The radicand, which is our next important vocab word, is whatever you have inside the square root. You can have variables, you can have numbers, you can have basically almost whatever you want as long as it represents a number. So the radicand would just be the stuff that's inside or underneath the radical sign, okay? So we're going to be doing a lot with the radicand as we work through these problems today. Okay, perfect squares. So a perfect square is a number that you can easily take the square root of, so we really like them. A perfect square is just anything that is equivalent to one number being multiplied by itself. So, for example, if I have 4, 4 is equal to 2 times 2, so 4 is a perfect square. 9 is equal to 3 times 3, so 9 is a perfect square. Okay, so all of these numbers that are equal to one number being multiplied by itself, those are perfect squares. Okay, and the reason we like these is because if we take the square root of any perfect square, it's just going to be an integer number or answer, which is awesome. So I'm going to list a few of the common perfect squares because it's going to be important for us to start recognizing the common perfect squares. So we've got 1, which is 1 times 1. We have 4. We have 9. We have 16. We have 25. We have 36. We have 49. We have 64. We have 81. And we have 100. So those are the perfect squares from 1 to 100, okay? And we just like to be able to recognize those quickly so that we can quickly take the square root of them. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about perfect cubes. So perfect cubes are very similar to perfect squares. Basically, a perfect cube means that it's a number that I multiply the same number by itself 3 times, 2 times 2 times 2, and I get 8. So this 8 is considered a perfect cube. If I do 3 times 3 times 3, that's going to give me 27. 27 is a perfect cube. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that we want to look at with perfect cubes. And we'll see in a second why perfect cubes are so nice too. So let's start. Common perfect cubes are 1, 8, 27, let's see, 64, and 125. Those are just a few of them. Okay, you could go on forever, technically, but we won't right now. So let's talk about why we care about perfect cubes. So one reason we care about perfect squares is because if we take the square root of a perfect square, it's really easy to figure out what the answer is, just like when we took the square root of 4 in a previous example. A perfect cube, those are really nice because if we take the cube root of any perfect cube, we're just going to get an integer number. Okay, so this cube root, I don't know if you've seen it before, it looks very similar to a square root, except for there's this teeny tiny little 3 right here. Okay, that's called the index. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth a little bit later too. But it basically means that we're looking for one number that we multiply by itself 3 times to give you the radicand, so to give you 27. So because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, the cube root of 27 is 3. Okay? So just take a couple looks, a couple examples, take a look at them, and practice. So simplify each of the following. So the square root of 121 means what number do I multiply by itself to get 121? And that is 11, because 11 squared is 121. The square root of 81 is equal to 9, because 9 times 9 equals 81. Now C looks really tricky, but it's actually not bad at all. If you see something like this, the square root of a fraction, what we're going to do is we're going to make it the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom. Okay, this is a lot easier now, because we have the square root of 4, which is 2, and the square root of 9, which is 3. So the square root of 4 over 9 is 2 over 3. Okay, now you get into some variables in here. I am going to rewrite y to the 4th as y times y times y times y. Okay, and then I'm actually going to group these y times y's together. Well, let me use a different color so you can actually see it. I'm going to group these y times y's together into 2 sets of parentheses. Now we see that to get y to the 4th, we multiply y times y by itself twice, which is the same thing as y squared times y squared. So the square root of that is going to be y squared. Okay. With E, I'm going to show you a simpler way to do this. One thing that we can do that's really, really nice and easy is we can think about the square root as us looking for pairs. So if we have a pair of something, like in this previous example, we had a pair of 2 y's, right? So we just had a pair of y's on the outside. If we think about this z to the 14th, it means we have 14 z's underneath the radical, which means that we have 7 pairs of z's inside the radical. So when we take the square root, we get z to the 7th power. So however many pairs we have underneath the square root, that's what the exponent's going to be after we simplify the radical. Okay, let's take a look at a few more vocab terms. I'm going to change to a black pen so that you can hopefully differentiate what we're writing. So sometimes we're going to say we're going to take the nth root. So the nth root is similar to a square root or a cube root. It just means that we are going to be looking for groups that aren't pairs of 2 or trios of 3, but now we're looking for an n number. So the nth root, what it looks like is, say I want to find the 4th root of something, then I'm going to have a 4 on the outside of the radical. If I want to find the 5th root, I put the 5 on the outside of the radical. Okay, and this n right here is just standing for a number. Okay, so basically what this means is that I can take the nth root of any number, and that means that I could take the 6th root, the 7th root, the 10th root, as long as it's a positive whole number. Sometimes you're going to see it just written like this with an n on the outside, and that n just represents a positive whole number. Okay, the index is the number, the little number. Let's make it the little number on the radical. Okay, and the index is super important because it's going to help us to simplify radicals a lot easier. So the index tells us what size of groups we're looking for inside the radical. So let me give you an example of that. So say I'm doing this example A right here, and I am doing the cube root of 125. I am actually going to make a factor tree to start this off. That's one of the best ways to solve and simplify radicals. A factor tree, if you remember, is trying to find 2 factors or 2 numbers that multiply to give you 125. And I know that 5 times 25 is equal to 125. Now 5 is prime, so I can't simplify it any further. I'm going to circle it. I can break down 25 even more to 5 and 5. And then these guys are prime, so I'm going to circle them. Now, once you have this prime factorization, you are going to start making groups of numbers. Okay? The index right here is going to tell you how big the groups need to be. So I right here am trying to look for groups of 3, and I have a group of 3 5s. If I find a group of 3 5s, it means that 1 5 can come out of the radical, and that's going to be my answer. Okay? And we can do similar things with these other ones. We can look for factor trees that go with 81, which is 9 times 9. Break the 9 down even further to 3 and 3 and 3 and 3. All of these 3s are prime. I'm going to circle them just so I don't lose any of them. And then I'm looking for groups of 4, because that's what my index is. I have one group of 4 3s, which means that my answer to this problem is 3. Okay. Sometimes these don't work out as nicely as we might want, and we're going to see what happens later on when we see examples where not everything groups together as nicely as it did in A and B here. Okay. Let's get out some steps though of how we can simplify a radical. So if we're simplifying a radical expression with index n, remember n is just a number. Okay, the first step is to make a factor tree. So that means that we're breaking down the number inside the radical or the radicand to a bunch of prime numbers like we did in A and B up here. Then we are going to start looking for groups of size n. So when I say size n, I mean that if the n or if the index is 4, you're looking for groups of size 4. If your index is 5, like it is right here, then you're looking for groups of size 5. Okay? If there's a group of size n, so if there's a complete group, actually let's just call it a complete group. You take that number out of the radical. Okay? Everything else just stays inside. Okay? Whoops. Leave everything else inside. Okay? And then the last step is that you're going to multiply everything that's inside the radical together. And then multiply everything that's outside the radical together. Okay, we definitely need to see some examples of this really fast. So let's go through some examples. So the next page of our notes, well, we're going to skip the shortcuts part. They're actually not that many shortcuts. So let's do B. We'll start with B. It's a pretty simple one. So we're going to break 40 down into, you can break it down however you want as long as you get down to prime numbers. So 4 and 10, I can break 2 down to 2 and 2, but I can't break 2 and 2 down any further. And I can break 10 down to 5 and 2. Okay, so I've done step 1. I've made a complete factor tree. The next thing to do is to look for groups of size n. Now there's no index up here on this radical, which means that it's a 2, it's a square root. So I'm looking for groups of size 2. So I see one group of 2 right here. That's the only group I see. Okay, so since I made a group of 2s, I get to bring 1 2 out of the radical. So this pair of 2s turned into that 2 right there. Everything else has to stay inside the radical. So the 5 and the 2 have to stay inside the radical, and they're multiplied together. And then my last step is I just multiply everything that's inside and outside the radical. So it simplifies down to 2 square roots of 10. Okay, we're running out of time in this video, so I'm going to do a second video that shows an example of some of these more complicated ones like E, where you've got numbers and variables. So tune into that video.